Seneca didn't write for the sake of sounding wise. He wrote to save lives, starting with his own. In a world full of distraction, cruelty, ambition, and noise, Seneca offered clarity. His words weren't decorations, they were tools. They weren't intellectual games, they were instructions for survival. And more than that, they were instructions for peace. When we strip away the glitter of the modern world, the endless scroll, the constant updates, the pressure to do more, have more, be more, what we're often left with is anxiety. We fear we're not enough. We chase things we don't need. We drift into lives we don't recognize. Seneca knew this long before Instagram or burnout were invented. He saw it in the halls of Roman power, in the ambition of emperors, in the desperation of men who traded their time for status. He knew the cost of a poorly examined life. Seneca gave us 3 simple but deeply challenging rules. They are not to be memorized, they are to be lived. And when lived, they change not just how we think, but how we move, how we love, and how we let go. This video will walk through these 3 rules, not as abstract theory, but as living guidance. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Rule 1. Value your time like gold. Seneca famously wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." This is the first rule. Guard your time as fiercely as you guard your money, or more. Time is the only currency we cannot earn back. Once it is spent, it is gone forever. And yet, how casually we give it away. We answer meaningless notifications. We tolerate shallow conversations and gossip. We procrastinate our priorities, and we delay what matters for what is merely urgent. Seneca believed that a person who does not value their time is like someone who gives away their inheritance to strangers. He said that people are frugal with their money, but utterly wasteful with their hours. Why? Because the loss of time is invisible. You don't feel it leave, but you do feel its absence later, in regret, in fatigue, in missed opportunity. To live better, Seneca said, we must become misers of our time, not in a way that turns us cold or rigid, but in a way that makes us alert, deliberate, and deeply aware of how fleeting each moment is. We must learn to say no, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. Every invitation, every distraction, every passing indulgence is a decision, a trade, a portion of our existence exchanged for something. The question is whether the trade is worthy. Before saying yes, ask yourself with sincerity and courage, will this grow my understanding? Will this uplift my spirit or dilute it? Will this bring me closer to who I am meant to become? Or am I just running from discomfort? Many say yes from fear of missing out, from guilt, or from the illusion of obligation. But the Stoic asks, am I saying yes to this because it is right, or because I am too tired to say no? This rule demands a rare kind of honesty, an honesty that's painful at first, but freeing in the end. It asks us to confront not only how we spend our time, but why. Behind every wasted hour is often a hidden truth about what we fear, what we're avoiding, or what we have yet to discipline within ourselves. Honesty here doesn't mean shaming yourself, it means awakening. You cannot fix what you refuse to see, and you cannot grow through what you are unwilling to name. That's why this rule begins with a mirror, not a calendar. When you scroll past midnight, you are not resting, you are escaping. You are fleeing from your own fatigue instead of honoring it with sleep. When you gossip about someone you don't even admire, you are not bonding, you are wasting presence. You are letting conversation devolve into corrosion. When you binge, not to replenish but to numb, you are not relaxing, you are retreating. These aren't small indulgences, they're warnings. Each one reveals an impulse unchecked, a wound unhealed, or a life unlived. These are not neutral moments. They are quiet thefts, subtle drains on your integrity, and they become habits before they become regrets. They are small betrayals of your own potential, sanctioned by your own neglect. And what begins as a few careless hours becomes a pattern, a rhythm of decay. Decay doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers. It shows up in your sense of being behind, in the dullness of your spirit, in the tension between what you know matters and what you keep doing instead. Moments are lost not to crisis, but to subtle erosion. You think you are just passing time, but in truth, time is quietly passing you, without promise of return. You don't feel the subtraction until it has already happened, and when you finally look back, you realize you didn't lose your time in a moment. You lost it in 1,000 tiny forfeits. You reclaim your life not all at once, but 1 hour at a time. One simple act of defiance against distraction. One choice to go for a walk instead of scrolling. One journal entry instead of gossip. 1 hour spent with someone who builds you instead of drains you. One decision at a time, repeated until they become your identity, your compass, your strength. The better life begins not with grand change, but with 1 honest hour well spent. Then another, and suddenly your whole life begins to look different. Not by accident, but by design. Not because the world got quieter, but because you became stronger. Not because your schedule cleared, but because your mind did. A meaningful life is not found. It is shaped, chosen, carved 1 focused hour at a time. Each morning, identify the one thing that truly matters to your personal growth and do it before noon. Make your morning sacred. Reclaim the first and best part of the day for yourself before the demands of the world creep in. This is your uninterrupted time to think, to move with intention, to reconnect with the version of yourself you are working to build. The morning holds clarity before clutter, silence before noise, and presence before pressure. It is where momentum begins. Choose a task that feeds your long-term vision, not your short-term distractions. Read something that sharpens your mind. Listen to our videos on these very teachings of timeless wisdom. Write something that clarifies your values. Train your body, plan your day, meditate, reflect, or walk slowly through the quiet. These small rituals are not luxuries, they are anchors. They set the tone for the hours that follow. Use a journal to record where your time actually goes, not just where you hoped it would go. Track your distractions with the same honesty you track your accomplishments. You will be surprised how often your attention is pulled away, not by force, but by habit. Notice the patterns. Notice what tempts you to trade purpose for pleasure. Document it, not to judge yourself, but to improve. Your journal becomes your accountability partner, your mirror, your progress report. This practice, done daily, rewires your relationship with time. You stop treating time as something to survive and start treating it as something to steward. A morning spent well is not just a good start. It's a declaration. My time matters. I am not just existing. I am living on purpose. Chapter 2. Rule 2. Expect trouble. Stay ready. Seneca did not believe in blind optimism. He believed in preparation. His second rule is this: always expect the trials of life and train your mind before they arrive. This was not cynicism. It was wisdom. He called it premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. Imagine the hardship. Picture the delay. Visualize the loss. Then ask, if this were to happen, how would I carry myself? What virtue would I call upon? What response would honor my character? Seneca trained for life the way an athlete trains for the ring. He knew pain would come, betrayal would strike, illness would visit. So he rehearsed them in his mind, not to suffer early, but to suffer wisely. Most people get hit by hardship and react with shock. They say, "Why me?" as if suffering is a rare injustice. The Stoic says, I expected you, and I am ready. This is strength not born of denial, but of discipline. It is not the absence of emotion, but the presence of preparation. It is the power of one who has trained their mind to meet adversity, not with panic, but with poise. When life hits hard, the Stoic does not crumble, they recalibrate. They face the pain with open eyes, a steady heart, and the awareness that it was never promised to be easy. When you prepare for difficulty, you are not calling it into existence. You are not attracting misfortune. You are awakening readiness. You are calling your strength into position. Like a warrior sharpening their sword during peace, you understand that resilience is not built in crisis, but before it. Seneca taught that the greatest misfortune is to be unprepared for misfortune, because when the storm comes, and it will, it's not your feelings that will guide you, but your training. And if you have not trained your mind, you will be at the mercy of your instincts. So Seneca practiced adversity. He fasted not because food was unavailable, but to remind himself he could go without. He slept on the ground not to punish himself, but to prove he didn't need comfort to function. He wore simple clothes to strip away vanity and remind himself that value lies not in appearance, but in action. These were not rituals of deprivation. They were rehearsals of resilience. He was not trying to suffer. He was trying to remember that he could. I am not suggesting you follow the extreme practices that Seneca engaged in, such as fasting for days or sleeping on cold stone floors. Those were his tools, forged in the world he lived in. What matters is the principle, not the performance. The key is to find something suitable and meaningful for your situation, something that disrupts your comfort just enough to remind you of your strength. That could mean committing to daily workout routines, doing push-ups and sit-ups each morning, or starting your day with a cold shower. It could mean taking a walk without your phone, skipping the morning coffee, eating a plain meal with no seasoning, or intentionally choosing a moment of stillness when the world wants you rushed. The form it takes doesn't matter as much as the spirit behind it. What matters is that you prove to yourself regularly, I can do without. I can endure discomfort. I can stay strong when ease is taken away. These small acts build the mental muscle memory that adversity will later call upon. Make discomfort a choice now, so it doesn't become a shock later. The modern world makes it easy to forget that discomfort is survivable. Everything around us, from the mattress we sleep on to the food we order in seconds, teaches us to avoid friction. We're surrounded by cushions, conveniences, distractions. We are rarely without access, rarely without comfort, rarely required to stretch our inner reserves. So when real adversity finally arrives, an illness, a loss, a betrayal, we stagger. Not just from the pain itself, but from the shock that pain was even possible. We feel punished. We feel singled out. But life is not punishing us. It is simply revealing how unprepared we were to be human. Because to be human is not to be endlessly comfortable. It is to endure. It is to hurt and still rise. It is to lose and still live with grace. It is to face uncertainty with the kind of stillness that can only come from deep practice, cultivated through intentional friction, not avoidance. Being human is not about avoiding storms. It's about building a self that knows how to walk through them with dignity. That's the beauty and the burden of our condition, to carry strength in one hand and vulnerability in the other. Modern life has given us many tools, but it has also softened our edge. Convenience, while useful, has come at the cost of resilience. We've learned to cope through distraction instead of confrontation. When discomfort shows up, our reflex is to mute it, numb it, scroll it away. We soothe instead of strengthen. We seek shortcuts instead of depth. So when discomfort arrives, whether in the form of heartbreak, hardship, illness, or failure, it feels like an assault. We're not just surprised by it, we're dismantled by it. But in truth, discomfort is not a punishment. It's an invitation, a return to our true nature, resilient, adaptable, noble. Discomfort is the furnace in which character is forged, and when we treat it as a threat instead of a teacher, we miss the very training ground we were given. You don't grow without resistance. Muscles don't strengthen without pressure. Minds don't sharpen without challenge, and spirits don't deepen without being stretched. We were not made for endless ease. We were made to carry meaning, and meaning is forged in effort. If you fear hardship, you give it power. You let it grow roots in your mind long before it ever knocks on your door. You begin to make decisions based on avoidance rather than aspiration. You shrink your ambitions just to stay safe. You begin to seek control over everything, not out of wisdom, but out of fear, and that desperate need for control becomes its own form of suffering. You trap yourself trying to avoid the very thing that life inevitably brings: change, loss, discomfort. But if you prepare for it, if you anticipate hardship not as a curse but as a certainty, you reclaim your dignity. You regain your footing. You make peace with what may come and strengthen your grip on who you intend to be through it. You say, I may lose much, but I will not lose myself. I may bend, but I will not break. I am not at the mercy of random events. I am rooted in principle, and those principles, not my circumstances, define who I am. This is not just poetic resilience, it's a lived strength, cultivated slowly, mindfully, deliberately. The one who prepares is not harder, but deeper. They are not brittle, they are flexible. They don't flinch at the first sign of difficulty because they've already rehearsed it. They've trained for the storm, not by predicting every blow, but by strengthening their stance. They've already practiced walking through fire in small, self-chosen ways. They've embraced discomfort before life forced it upon them. They've trained not to become untouchable, but unshakable. Not invulnerable, but unwavering. Their self-worth is not housed in comfort. It's built in character. It doesn't depend on applause, circumstance, or convenience. It is forged in the quiet moments where no one else is watching, in the small disciplines kept when no reward is guaranteed. They don't need the world to be soft for them to remain strong. Their strength does not ask for permission. It does not rely on a predictable life. It thrives in the unpredictable. That is the mark of real inner freedom. To remain centered while the ground beneath shifts. To remain whole, even while the world fragments. This kind of strength is not arrogant, it is humble. It knows that storms are part of the human experience. It does not deny pain, it accepts its role in purification. These individuals don't become unbreakable by avoiding hardship. They become unshakable by embracing it, learning from it, and using it to carve a deeper foundation. They don't mistake emotional numbness for stoic strength. They feel deeply, but they are not ruled by those feelings. They guide them. They've suffered, yes, but they've transformed that suffering into structure. Hardship will visit everyone. No one is exempt from the trials of life. It doesn't matter how cautious, intelligent, or successful you are. Pain has a way of finding you. You don't get to choose if adversity comes. You only get to choose who you are when it arrives. And that decision, quiet, internal, personal, shapes everything. That choice, though subtle and internal, determines the outcome more than any external force. The difference is whether it finds you fragile or forged, whether it finds someone begging for comfort or someone grounded in clarity, whether you've spent your life outsourcing your strength to luck and ease or building it slowly with sweat and clarity through discipline and truth. One path leaves you gasping for help, the other grounded in resilience. One collapses under pressure, the other responds with poise. The Stoic prepares not to avoid suffering, but to meet it without surrendering their character. They do not panic in chaos. They return to principle. They don't need to know every outcome. They only need to know who they will be through it. They do not abandon their values under pressure. They lean into them harder. They have practiced loss. They have trained for discomfort. They know that pain will come, but their values will remain. And that simple truth anchors them. Their composure is not performative. It is rooted. It does not need an audience, applause, or even understanding. It is self-earned, self-validated, self-directed. They preserve their integrity when everything else is stripped away. That's not just strength, it's wisdom in action. It's philosophy worn like armor, not like decoration. It's courage applied when comfort is absent. It's loyalty to virtue when no one is rewarding you for it. It's choosing to live in alignment with what you value, even when life tries to knock you off balance, even when the world is watching for your reaction, especially when no one is. And because they've practiced this discipline, they carry a quiet confidence, not the loud confidence that boasts or demands recognition, but the silent confidence that comes from being ready. They've already walked the terrain of suffering in their minds. They've anticipated the fall and rehearsed how to rise. They've separated what can be controlled from what cannot, and anchored themselves to the only thing that truly endures, their character. When pain arrives, it does not shatter them. It reveals them. Chapter 3. Rule 3. Associate only with those who improve you. Seneca once said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." This is the third rule. Be vigilant about the company you keep. Our character is shaped by our environment. Just as iron sharpens iron, so too does mediocrity dull excellence. A single drop of ink can cloud an entire glass of water, and in the same way, the company we keep can quietly stain our thinking, our habits, and our purpose. Seneca saw how easily ambition could be corrupted by envy, how virtue could be diluted by exposure to vice, how clear thinking could be clouded by constant noise. He observed firsthand how the moral decay of others often starts not with a single immoral act, but with sustained exposure to those who don't hold themselves to a high standard. The people around us are like mirrors and magnets. They reflect who we are becoming, and they pull us closer to what they embody. If you spend time with those who gossip, you will speak of others. If you spend time with those who chase pleasure, your appetite for wisdom will decay. If you constantly surround yourself with the cynical, your hope begins to fade. If you spend time with the lazy, your discipline will erode. But if you walk with the disciplined, the intentional, the just, your own posture begins to shift. You begin to expect more from yourself, not out of pressure, but out of inspiration. The mind mirrors what it surrounds itself with. Excellence leaves a residue. So does mediocrity. Seneca did not advise isolation. He advised alignment. He did not call for detachment from people, but discernment in people. He warned that the wrong company could undo the best of men, even those with the strongest principles. A wise person does not believe they are immune to the influence of their environment. They take care. They protect their moral vision from distortion. They understand that values are contagious, for better or worse. They choose relationships that elevate, challenge, and refine. Relationships that call them to something higher. This rule isn't just about avoiding toxic people. It's about seeking the courageous, the honest, the humble. It's about placing yourself intentionally in rooms that sharpen you, in conversations that stretch you, and in communities that reinforce your highest values, even when it's uncomfortable to do so. It's about elevating your standards for connection, not based on status, but on substance. It's about choosing to spend your limited time with those whose lives speak louder than their words. People who challenge your complacency not through criticism, but by example. It's about spending time with those whose presence reminds you of your own ideals, not your impulses. Their lives don't provoke envy, they provoke alignment. They don't inspire competition, they inspire clarity. These are not always the most successful by worldly standards, they are the most centered by inner ones. They may not have fame, but they have peace. They may not have power, but they have principles. They may not have crowds around them, but they carry themselves like someone who has nothing to prove and everything to offer. They are not seeking followers. They are becoming someone worth following. They are not concerned with popularity. They are focused on purpose. And sometimes the person who influences you most is not loud or charismatic, but quiet and rooted. Their strength is not in their speech, but in their presence. Their consistency speaks louder than noise. Their humility teaches more than cleverness. They live a life that is not a reaction to the world, but a reflection of a well-cultivated inner world. Their life is not a performance, it is a philosophy in motion. They carry their values not on their sleeves, but in their decisions. These are the kinds of people worth keeping close, not for validation, but for elevation. You are always becoming something. No one remains unchanged. Every interaction, every choice, every influence, whether subtle or obvious, shapes who you are in motion. Every day you shift slightly towards strength or weakness, clarity or confusion, depth or distraction. And these shifts often happen without notice, in the small exchanges and seemingly harmless routines. The question is, under whose influence? Are you rising to meet your better self, or being pulled toward a lesser version of you? Are the people and spaces in your life lifting you toward your potential, or anchoring you in old patterns? Are you surrounding yourself with reminders of virtue or distractions from it? Are your conversations filled with truth, wisdom and challenge, or comfort, flattery and avoidance? Every conversation is a nudge in a certain direction. Every relationship is a trajectory, whether forward, backward, or in circles. Every environment is either a mirror that reflects your values back to you with clarity, or a mold that quietly reshapes you without your awareness. Some spaces invite you to grow, others slowly erode your standards. The Stoic pays attention to this. They don't drift through their social landscape, they navigate it consciously. They curate their influences as carefully as they guard their thoughts, because they know both shape their character over time. The values of those around you become the atmosphere you breathe, the rhythm you adapt to, the lens through which you interpret life. They understand that even unspoken norms, what people celebrate, what they tolerate, what they silently encourage, affect your moral calibration. Invisible habits and subtle energies influence your posture toward life, your sense of what is normal, and your expectations of yourself. Without vigilance, it's easy to adopt the tone of your surroundings without even realizing it. That's why Stoic wisdom insists, choose wisely, choose intentionally, choose with the weight of your future in mind. Choose yours carefully. You are not just protecting your time or your goals, you are protecting your soul. Your soul is not some vague abstraction, it is your very essence, the seat of your values, your decisions, your conscience. Protect your soul like it's your greatest possession, because it is. Everything else, your reputation, your possessions, your opportunities, can be lost and rebuilt. But your soul, once corrupted, takes time and discipline to purify. Your soul is the compass that guides your decisions, the anchor that holds you in integrity, the reservoir from which your strength flows. It is the deepest part of you, the part not swayed by trends, noise, or applause. It carries the weight of your convictions and the clarity of your conscience. It deserves better than to be handed to every passing influence, every loud voice, every crowd that claps for the wrong things. What you allow to shape your soul shapes the entire trajectory of your life. That's not a poetic idea, it's a practical reality. When your soul is clear, your decisions become simpler. When it's cluttered, everything feels conflicted. Surround yourself not just with people you like, but with people who help you like who you are becoming. It's easy to gravitate toward people who affirm your comfort. It's much harder, and far more necessary, to draw near to those who call you higher. People who don't just go along with your habits, but challenge you to refine them. People who live with intention, not because it's trendy, but because it's necessary. Their presence invites reflection. Their discipline challenges your excuses. Their steadiness becomes a standard. These people may not flatter you, but they'll sharpen you. And they won't always make you feel comfortable, but they'll help you grow in ways you didn't know you needed. People who challenge your blind spots, who elevate your habits, who model a life of principle, these are rare, but essential. Choose those who make you sharper, not just safer. Not everyone who makes you feel good is good for you. Sometimes the friend you avoid is the one who sees you most clearly. The mentor you resist is the one who speaks what no one else is willing to say. Seek those who love you enough to be honest, who respect you enough to be real, who walk their talk before asking you to walk yours. Their example is not loud, but it's unforgettable. Choose those who speak truth when it's difficult, and whose example reminds you to live with intention. Choose those who hold you to the standard you set for yourself when you're alone and honest and dreaming of who you could be. Choose people who remind you of your better self, not just your current one, because in the end, you become like those you walk beside. And if you choose wisely, you'll look back one day and realize they didn't just change your direction, they helped you find your soul again. Audit your circle. Who drains you with their negativity, their gossip, their chronic dissatisfaction? Who inspires you, not just in fleeting moments, but consistently through the example of their life? Who do you become when you're with them? More grounded or more anxious? More focused or more distracted? More aligned with your values or further from them? Begin to reflect deeply on these questions. The answers will reveal not only the quality of your relationships, but the direction of your character. Keep a journal of your interactions. Note how you feel before, during, and after your time with people. Do you feel elevated or depleted? Do you feel seen or simply used? Do you feel challenged to grow or encouraged to settle? Each week, reach out to someone whose character you admire. Not someone who is merely successful by worldly standards, but someone whose strength of soul speaks louder than their achievements. Invite them into your world through a meal, a long walk, or even a quiet conversation over coffee. Ask about their habits. Ask what keeps them anchored. Listen to their story. Watch how they move through disappointment, through pressure, through everyday moments. Let their presence guide you toward a better version of yourself. Fill your time with relationships that sharpen your mind, awaken your better instincts, and nourish your soul's deeper hunger. These are not always easy relationships, but they are essential ones. They stretch you. They call you out and call you up. They hold you to your best even when you're tempted to compromise. Distance yourself from those who pull you away from your principles, even if it means standing alone for a while. Solitude is not failure. It is often the foundation. Sometimes it is in isolation that you find the integrity to choose better company. And in that space, you begin to build not just a stronger circle, but a stronger self. Seneca's wisdom wasn't ornamental, it was operational. He didn't write for applause, he wrote to provoke action. He knew that the hardest battle was not out in the world, but inside the soul. To live a better life, according to Seneca, you don't need a radical reinvention. You need daily discipline. You need simple truths, deeply followed. Value your time. Prepare your mind. Choose your company. These 3 rules are not complicated, but they are demanding, because they ask for your full presence, your full effort, your full honesty. Seneca himself struggled with them. He was wealthy while preaching simplicity. He served an emperor while advocating inner freedom, but he never claimed perfection. What he gave us was the map. It's our job to walk it. You don't have to live in ancient Rome to follow his guidance. You don't need a toga or a scroll. You don't need to speak Latin or live in a marble palace. You only have to wake up each morning with the intention to live wisely, act justly, and think clearly. To pause before wasting your time on what won't matter. To question distractions that ask for your attention but steal your purpose. To strengthen your spirit before life tests it with delays, insults, or unexpected change. To walk beside those who want to rise, not those who wish to distract, derail, or pull you into their confusion. Living like a Stoic is not about escaping the modern world. It's about confronting it with clarity. It's not about detachment from life. It's about deeper engagement with the things that matter. Every day presents the choice: drift with the noise or align with what you know to be right. It's not glamorous, it's not flashy, but it is deeply fulfilling. Because when you live like this, intentionally, honestly, with discipline, you begin to live not just a better life, but a fuller one, a life of depth over decoration, a life you can look back on with peace, not regret, a life that leaves no part of your soul untended. A better life is not built in grand declarations, but in daily consistency, in small moments where you choose principle over impulse, attention over distraction, silence over noise, strength over comfort. These are not just habits. They are the quiet architecture of a meaningful life. They are the seeds of peace, clarity, and resilience. And they are yours to plant, water, and tend today, not someday. Seneca once wrote, "While we are postponing, life speeds by." And how many of us keep waiting for the perfect timing, the ideal conditions, the right energy or motivation. But wisdom does not wait. Purpose does not wait. The path opens only for those who start walking it. Don't wait for a better time to begin. These rules are not for when life calms down. They are for right now, while life is happening, while it's still messy. While you still have breath, you still have the power to live with purpose. Start with one rule, just one. Live it fully. Practice it until it becomes second nature, until it becomes part of your reflex, your rhythm, your identity. Then add the next. Let each rule build upon the last. Let your life become a reflection of clarity, discipline, and love for what truly matters. You don't have to be perfect. You only have to be committed. That commitment, daily, humble, sincere, is the true mark of a Stoic. Seneca lit the path, not with loud proclamations, but with quiet force, not with fantasy, but with realism, not with pride, but with relentless self-examination. Now it's yours to walk. The question is no longer whether you know what to do. The question is, will you do it?